Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Dune Part 1. I have never read the book Dune. My dad has, like, a bunch of times. He's a big fan of it. I'm sure when he sees this video, he'll write a very long comment about how I was wrong about a bunch of stuff. He'll tell his review, and then I'll pin it at the top of the comments when he does, and you can read that. I'm sure it'll be a much better review of Dune than this is, because I don't really know what I'm talking about other than the movie stuff. But the other thing with this movie is this is a part one, very much so, which I think makes it sort of hard to review. I often wonder how people got as into it. I'm assuming they read the book, just because it doesn't feel like a complete story to me. So in a lot of ways, I don't feel like I'm fully reviewing Dune. I feel like I'm reviewing part of it, and I know that is like the case, it's just part of the book, not all of the book, and it feels that way. This is not Fellowship of the Ring versus the rest of the Lord of the Rings. This is not Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, where you could watch them as separate films, I think, very comfortably. And, you know, you might want to watch the others, and obviously a lot of people did, but they work as sole films. You know what I mean? This doesn't. It really feels like I saw part of one story and not a story. Like nothing, you know, it feels like the story's almost really getting going and then it ends. Like I kept wondering, like, maybe they should have ended it when they got dropped in the desert. Maybe they should have ended it here. I thought where they ended it was strange. I was like, oh, that's it, I guess. I really do feel like I'm not going to really be reviewing Dune as an artistic statement until Dune Part 2 comes out, which I don't like. Really, it feels like a weird viewing experience, especially for a thing that's this expensive and huge and this big of an artistic statement. But I feel like maybe I'll sum up more of my thoughts whenever I see Dune Part 2. I guess I've heard it's coming out in 2023. I've also heard Denis Villeneuve is a little worried about that date. It might get pushed back or something. I mean, release dates do that, especially now. But I liked what I saw. It felt like I watched the first couple episodes of a show, and I would have watched more of that show had I been able to. But I am not. I have to wait like 3 years to get episode 2, basically, which is weird. It's sort of hard to explain what's going on in this, but it's sort of like this rich space family is going to go take over a big mining colony for this thing called spice, which not only gets people high, but it's also fuel or helps people be able to travel through space and stuff. I guess the emperor of all of space, not sure about that one, had them come and like fix up this mining colony, and the locals don't really love that. It's supposed to be about like colonization and things like that, and it takes place in like 8,000 years later than we are, which doesn't make me feel great about the future. This is what it is. And this family that Timothy Chalamet is the kind of son in is taking over that town, and like what happens there, I guess, with them trying to take control of that mining colony. I guess that's a terrible plot description. I also think, like, I don't think I'm the most interested in politics stories for politics' sake, and like Game of Thrones was not necessarily my jam. And I think when I was watching this, I thought Dune was weirder, and this just felt like, you know, not weird so much as rich people, you know, talking about their own internal rich people politics, which is not super interesting to me, and probably stories like that shouldn't be told as much as honestly they are. But, you know, the rich controls the world, so what do you expect? So I kind of wish the weirder elements had been more pronounced, and I think that is one of the biggest problems with this so far, is how Denis Villeneuve directed it, which feels very literal for something that I didn't think would be. This feels very post-Christopher Nolan, and I think that's a problem with Denis Villeneuve. All the dark futurism of this, like, it was not fun to kind of look around the frame a lot of the times. Compared to most space movies, it was very drab. I guess that's an aesthetic, particularly with the cinematographer Greg Fraser. I often was thinking how I liked Denis Villeneuve's films a lot better, like Blade Runner, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, or Sicario when he worked with Roger Deakins, and how his work kind of popped even more because he had a great DP with him. I think this film is very well shot and very beautiful and very impressive, but he didn't have a DP that would make me look at the frame and look around. You know, everything was almost, you knew exactly where to look in every part of the frame. And if you did look around, you wouldn't need to, because it's like a dune or like a black wall or some shit. And it just wasn't honestly that visually inviting. My one thing is, like, I wish we got an animated Dune, because I feel like if you got like the people who made Adventure Time to make Dune, that sounds like amazing. And I'd be looking all over the frame, and I'd be pausing it, and I'd want to look at screen caps of it. And this, it's like, oh cool, that ship is sinking and he's holding on to him, and the sand, like, that's very cool and very impressive. But it's just like not this rich visual world like this. Like, we've waited so long for this to be a movie. There's to be a Dune movie. This is something people waited for forever. And I don't necessarily think I get the phenomenon that I think I got with Lord of the Rings. I feel like oftentimes when I'm watching this, I'm getting that people are happy there's a Dune movie and that he like accomplished making a Dune movie in our modern setting. But I don't necessarily hear people getting into Dune from it. And falling into that world necessarily. And I think a lot of that is how they chose to tell the story, which I don't think was the greatest. I don't think it necessarily worked doing it in parts like this, or at least this part of it, because it's not telling a full story. Now, artistic intent-wise, I guess that was never the point of this movie. It was never the point to tell the whole story. And I guess in terms of not telling the whole story and not having a full artistic statement, I guess it did a good job. I like Timothée Chalamet. I don't think it was, some people say it's his best performance. I don't really agree with that, but I thought he did a good job. I actually sort of wish Kyle MacLachlan had played his dad and not Oscar Isaacs. The Oscar Isaacs casting feels very boring. I did like Jason Momoa. You can't stop him from being Jason Momoa, and I love that about him. Even in Dune, I like Dave Bautista, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin, Rebecca Ferguson. I felt like everyone knew they're part of a major, big, epic movie and did those kind of like almost in the 1950s, like I'm watching the Ten Commandments or something, and everyone's kind of giving it their all in all those performances. And I agree with that. They all did fine, really good performances and things like that. The colonialism of it, was interesting, but again, it didn't make its full point. It felt like I'm watching Star Wars, and we're watching Obi-Wan and Luke, and they're gonna go to the city in Tatooine, and then the movie ends, and you're like, oh, neat, I guess. It didn't feel like something I could really sink my teeth into, because it wasn't letting me, and that was never the intent of it, but I don't necessarily like it in that way. I enjoyed it. I think it's a solid movie. I don't think it's one of Denis Villeneuve's, I don't think it's his strongest effort or something. I'm sure this would look great in the IMAX. I haven't gotten to go back to theaters yet, but I'm sure if I did, it would look visually impressive. If you have a chance, I would recommend it from what I can see of it. There's certain elements like the sandworms. Why did I keep seeing them just look like the Sarlacc pit from Return of the Jedi, and then only saw them really big a couple of times? It didn't really make any sense. I do think like the Greg Fraser cinematography bothered me the more I think about it, because I really wish they had a DP. It doesn't have to be Lebesky or Roger Deakins, who's like a pedigreed DP, but someone who like makes me want to look around the frame, someone who is doing something interesting with the camera all the time. And although these shots are very beautiful and very amazing and things like that, I almost feel like he needed that strong DP presence, which I don't think Greg Fraser necessarily had. It felt like Greg Fraser fell into Denis Villeneuve auteurism and just became one with him or something. Like, it wasn't like Deakins feels like he's another painter messing with his vision. And I feel like a good DP, even like a Bill Pope or someone who could have understood this a little more, and I didn't really feel that way. I felt like someone who understood, like, sure, how to make, like, Denis Villeneuve is very good with frame. I'm not gonna say he isn't, but it just wasn't a frame that I'm gonna look at again and again. I'm probably gonna not think about this movie unless my dad brings it up or other people bring it up. I watched part one. I got a little bored of the space politics. I like some of the surrealism, like the thing with the box and the hand, I thought was interesting, but also probably could have been done in a lot more interesting way. The Lynch scene, which I did watch again, was a lot more interesting than what Denis Villeneuve did. I don't really have a lot of nostalgia for the Lynch one, or I've seen it a few times. It never really stuck out to me. This doesn't really either. It just feels like, I don't know Frank Herbert's book. Maybe I should, make my dad proud and actually read it. Since I have not, I will say this is a very big, epic statement from Denis Villeneuve. I am excited to see the rest of it, but it doesn't necessarily feel as imaginative. It feels like I'm watching someone interpret something in a post Christopher Nolan, post like Iraq War movie kind of view, and I don't know what the full extent of the story is, so I can't even tell you if that visually totally makes sense. I do feel like someone went, do you want to watch half a movie? And I did it, and then they asked for my opinions or something, and I told them, and I'm like, so when's the rest? Like, oh, like 4 years. Like, were these choices good choices? I don't know, because I didn't see the full movie, because this is part 1 and there's not a part 2. They haven't even started shooting it yet. I think that's like the biggest thing of it. Like, why wasn't this just an event series? Like, why is this the way it is? I honestly think we got off to a good start, but I feel like a lot of my opinions could be invalidated, or, you know, more, I could understand more, because it's like, it's part 1 of a whole epic thing. And I think I hope I appreciate it more. I think Denis Villeneuve could pull this off, but you know, I've heard people say it felt to me a little literal. It didn't feel surreal and weird. I kind of wanted more interesting sci-fi, you know, but I don't know if I really got it. I just felt like I got like sort of like the Game of Thrones politics with like rich families and, you know, taking over stuff and economic worries and things that I can't relate to kind of things. And that's fine, I guess, but you know, I was kind of more interested in seeing what happens with Paul, and we don't really know yet. Who I guess is going to be on Moses Jesus or something like that, which is what I got from it, at least. I'm sorry this review is sort of loose, because I just didn't feel like I saw a full film. I just didn't. I don't think any of us did. We got an exciting part of a movie. I guess this is your indie trailer at Sundance, and now we're all going to let you fund the rest of your vision. I hope it works out for all of us. And when part 2 comes out, I actually do plan on rewatching part 1, because I have a feeling it's just going to start where part 1 left off, or they'll have previously on Dune from Timothée Chalamet, which I wish some of these movies would do. Like, it's a TV show. Come on. Cinema and TV are like, there's no difference anymore. Why don't we do that? I enjoyed it. I don't think it was a film. I don't think it was one of the best of the year or something necessarily. I think visually it was pretty, but if you really think about the aesthetics and the reasons behind the camera, it becomes a little less interesting when you really think about it. But it's an interesting sci-fi film, but I don't think it's an interesting sci-fi film that lends itself to imagination. The imagination you heard about when you heard about Dune, when you heard about these ideas that excites you. I did not get that from this film, and I did not really get that from his direction, but I was sort of interested to see where the story goes after everything that happened, and what's going to happen to Paul, what's going to happen to his mom, are his visions correct, all those things. That kept me going, but it felt like that was a part that we really didn't fully get to see, and it would have been nice to see that instead of sort of what I got, which was just like this incomplete artistic statement. And I guess if you're, you know, it's a good incomplete artistic statement, but it's not a finalized thing, and I guess that was the intent, but that doesn't mean necessarily I think it worked as this idea. I get everything he was trying to do, but just felt like I saw something and then it stopped, and now I just gotta wait for a long time and hope we all remember all this stuff in Dune Part 1. So if you've seen Dune Part 1 and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.